where I could have a positive impact on the lives of others. Plus, make a lot of money and buy great handbags, of course. I still didn't know exactly what sort of position that would be, and didn't really care, as long as I could be the person in charge and everybody else had to do what I said. Businesses wouldn't let you make the big decisions, take over, and run things unless you had credentials. Go figure. So I was now pursuing my bachelor's degree. The college counselor, who was obviously overdue for a stint in rehab, thought that because I had every weekday free, I should take a full load. That's 6 classes or something. But I didn't want to overwhelm myself by taking on too much, so I cut my schedule down a little. The classes I picked were tough, though. Both of them. So far, college seemed a lot like high school, so I didn't understand what the fuss was all about. Plus, the instructors were taking themselves way too seriously. They expected us to complete every single assignment and actually pay attention in class. I was just there to complete the course. They seemed to think I wanted to learn something. I wasn't worried about my grades. English was easy. All I'd done so far was copy stuff off the internet, and I'd be able to keep up the good grades in health, as long as that girl who sat in front of me didn't start covering her paper. Marcy and I left the mall and said goodbye in the parking lot, and I took the freeway to Santa Clarita, a really great upscale area about 30 minutes north of Los Angeles. I had an apartment there, which was terrific, and a job there that wasn't. But that's okay, because I was on my path toward a highly successful future. Somewhere, doing something. Holt's department store was 7 minutes from my place. 6 if I ran the light at the corner. It was a mid-range store that sold clothing and shoes for the whole family, jewelry, accessories, and housewares mostly. The corporate buyer in charge of the clothing ought to be taken out behind one of the stores and beaten. Or worse, be forced to wear Holt's clothing. Believe me, no one lies awake at night plotting a way to purchase anything on our racks. I had started working there last fall, just before Thanksgiving, as a sales clerk. It was supposed to be through the holidays, but then all sorts of crap happened. I ended up with $100,000 in the bank and a gorgeous boyfriend. Somehow, things hadn't turned out exactly as I'd imagined. Having $100,000 wasn't as much fun as I thought it would be. And Ty Cameron, the man I thought I'd fallen in love with, well, I wasn't sure where things stood with him. Which was totally his fault, of course. That's why I desperately needed that Judith Lieber evening bag. If a beautifully boxed clutch with Austrian crystals, a satin lining, and a keepsake bag couldn't cheer you up, was there any hope for mankind? I pulled into the parking lot in front of the Holt store. It was almost empty. The store was closed until 6 p.m. today to get ready for our biggest sale of the season. That's what the sign in the front window said. But really, the inventory team was working inside and didn't want to be bothered with customers. I know exactly how they feel. I swung around back and parked. The area outside the loading dock had been completely transformed. A big white tent top had been erected. Latticework screens circled the tent and blocked out the view of the dumpsters. Tables were decorated with pastels, and a runway led from a curtained platform. Another table held a couple dozen wrapped gifts. Potted green plants and blooming flowers were everywhere. One of the loading dock doors was open, and I saw the caterer's staff working inside the stockroom. Holtz had decided to treat us employees to a luncheon and a fashion show of the new line of spring clothing we were going to carry. They were also raffling off prizes. I had to admit, the place looked great, and the idea was a good one. I didn't really